Okay, it's 5:02. I'd like to call the planning board meeting of December 4th to order. If I could find my agenda, that would be handy. My eyes aren't that good. Okay. I got it right here. Thank you. Meeting is called to order, introducing planning board members and staff. To my far right, Steve Yost, Sean Henry, Beverly Bookin, our vice chair, Jane Ramson. I'm Rick Noonan, the chair. To my immediate left, Greg Catamatori, our planning director. Then the other guy down there, Doug Cook, and Eric, our senior planner. Next on the agenda this evening are A&Rs, site plan reviews, and preliminary subdivision plans and/or amendments. First application for this evening is a site plan review approval or site plan review approval under GZO 5.8.2A submitted by Applied Materials for new industrial construction over 2,000 gross feet at 30 Blackburn Drive, Assessors Map 262, 263, lots 24 and 4. I don't know if we have a representation or somebody that's live here. So Maggie, you should be able to speak. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Eric Svan should also be on the call, if you could give him permission as well.
Okay.
And then John Goodwin from Applied Materials.
Yeah, just one second. Eric, just want to acknowledge that you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent.
Other guy, Goodwin, John Goodwin. Mr. Goodwin, can you hear us? John, can you hear us? Might be getting a coffee. So I don't know, Maggie, or
There's John. Right.
Can you hear us okay,
Let me
John?
see if that worked. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great.
Hello?
Hi, John.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, Eric, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, John.
Huh.
You hear us, John?
So maybe while John's working out his connectivity, Maggie or Eric, if you want to.
Yep. So on behalf of Applied Materials in the Gloucester Industrial Park, we would have John Goodwin, Facilities Project Manager, online. And what we'd, so we're here to introduce our project. So good afternoon, Chair, members of the panel. I'm Eric Svan. I'm a principal at SGA Architects in Boston, and I'm leading the design team. So we'd like to present the existing building and the new projects that we have. First first image is an aerial site plan to get oriented. So on this site plan, north is up, south is to the bottom, east to the right, and west is left, as I referred to different sides of the building. This is known affectionately as Building 4. It's an existing two-story building of some older, much older vintage. And it's located on the campus. Its address is 30 Blackburn Drive in the industrial park. The site has frontage on Great Republic Drive, Blackburn Drive, and Blackburn Center, which is a private way. The facility has a footprint area of approximately 28,000 square feet, including a double height R&D space inside the building. Building has a gas storage annex office spaces on level 1 and a level 2 mezzanine. Our proposed project will renovate about 17,000 square feet of office space and create a new clean room inside the building. And we have approximately 4,500 square feet of exterior additions, improvements, and that's why we're here before you. So the R&D portion of the facility is dedicated to high-tech manufacturing. It features a range of specialized uses, including industrial fabrication, clean room, storage, packaging, and shipping, all in this building. The building does store and dispense hazardous chemicals and has, as regulated by both the building and fire codes, and has a dedicated, what we call an HPM, or hazardous production materials gas storage room, on level 1. So now on the third slide, we have some images of the existing building. On the upper left is the west side of the building. On the lower left is the northwest corner of the building as viewed from the cul-de-sac end of Blackburn Drive. You're looking up at the building. On the upper right is the south side of the building. This connects to Blackburn Center Road, the private way. And on the lower right is an extension of that view up along Blackburn Center, and trailer 40 is located in the background that you see there. Access to the building is restricted. It's primarily used just by employees, with occasional escorted vendors or clients due to the sensitive technology and development that's going on inside the building. So now with the site plan, the proposed improvements, I will walk you around the exterior proposed improvements. On the northeast corner, we are proposing a smaller size 130 kVA emergency generator to support the new clean room equipment and the life safety features that go along with with the systems inside that clean room. On the west side of the building, there is a new mechanical dunnage platform, and there is a new stair to access that dunnage platform, and that will access the roof. That stair will also serve as an egress-only exit out of the level 2 mezzanine down to grade. This mezzanine is needed because the building and its vintage is built as a warehouse, cannot support any more equipment on the existing framing that's inside the building. We would like the stair outside because that would support access to the mechanical equipment and the roof without service maintenance people going through. Again, that's the technically sensitive spaces inside the building. On the south side of the building, we are adding a stair. It was originally a construction stair to facilitate egress because the building will remain in operation while it undergoes the project. That stair goes to a water room where the incoming water and fire service, and we would like that stair to remain. It doesn't remove any parking spots, but it does facilitate access into a service room in the building directly from outside. Also, on the west side, you could point out, Maggie, there is a new elevator. The elevator provides accessibility for employees in the building from level 1 up to the level 2 mezzanine. It's not a service elevator or for functioning in the production. It's strictly for office personnel and accessibility. back to the south side. Along the front, there would be some street work to connect new domestic water and new fire service from the street service into the building at the location of the new stairs that I just mentioned. And then to the right, there is a pump house. It's a pre-manufactured pump house. It has the connections and the pump all inside the shed. The reason for this is that we did conduct a recent hydrant flow test. And although the pressure tested about 50 PSIs in the street, they do meet the building and the fire code requirements. Applied Materials has a higher corporate protection requirement, thus meeting additional pressure. And we're proposing the prefab fire pump house to accomplish that. We had originally located it in the parking lot. We did not want to give up spaces. We then located it where the mouse is in front of that white shed. That white shed is the hazardous material storage. That's where the gases get delivered. And we didn't want to put it in front of that and block that for accessibility for the fire department. So we're proposing to move it over on what would be a grassed-in area. Just north of that, on the east side of the building, is an addition that serves as a new electrical distribution and a new pump room for the cooling water that is needed to run the cooling and ventilation for the equipment inside the clean room. So this is the first floor plan. And the grayed out area is there's no work in that area. That's the part of the building that remains active during construction. The large white space on the south side of the building, that will become a clean room. The spaces adjacent to the right and to the south of the clean room support the clean room. There's pumps and equipment and gas distribution into that clean room. And then on the left-hand side is a entry reception area, accessible restrooms, the light safety system, and IDF rooms upgrade. And that is, so what is in white is the project, and the same space is duplicated on level 2, the mezzanine level. We are cutting out the floor of the clean room to make it a double height space. That's the work that's going on inside the building. Okay, so now I will go into a little bit more detail of some of the exterior items that we're proposing. And on this slide, this is the mechanical dunnage platform. It has supply air and return exhaust air units on the dunnage platform. It has the stair to the left. The stair is an open egress stair. We'd like to enclose it with a 50% perforated metal to help with maintenance and snow, and also limit access, badged access up to the roof. So on the upper left, again, it sits on existing grade. We're not changing and manipulating the grade in order to put in the dunnage platform. In the existing photos, do you have that? Yep. So here, there are trees that drop down to Blackburn Drive. Those trees are remaining. We might need just to prune them back a little bit, but we're not intending to cut or remove any trees. The trees are planted on the slope. The dunnage platform will sit on a level surface. So that's the existing image, and that's the proposed. There are some heights that I have picked out. You zoom in a little there. So the top of the parapet of the building is 22 feet 10 inches from grade, which we're calling 0 around the front of the building, and 0 basically relates to the elevation of the first floor of the building. The -3 feet at the loading dock is because those two pairs of windows were previously loading dock spaces that have been enclosed. And so the grade at the front of the building is -3 feet. The two mechanical unit elevations of 38 feet 0 and 37 foot 3, those are existing equipment that exists out there. And you can see that we're proposing our mechanical equipment, which currently has a duct off the top of the unit, which we're trying to work on, but that would be 42 feet 1. So we're 4 foot 1 higher than existing at the moment. What's next? Next is the pump shed. So on the left is the existing photo. On the right is the pump shed. It's like 15 feet by 20 feet by another 10 feet tall. And also, I don't know if you could zoom in on that pump shed a little bit. We are proposing to add a sidewalk along Blackburn Center. The purpose for this is that there are half the employees, 30 plus employees, will be relocated to other buildings, but they still need to come back every now and then and operate inside the building. And so we're looking for a safe way to get them from the top of the hill down to this parking area so that they can use that new stair that we've proposed to get in the building. We are then showing you proposed flat building elevations, if these are helpful. And that is the summary of the exterior and interior work of our proposed project.
So as Eric said, this is our site, Building 4 of Applied Materials campus, located at 30 Blackburn Drive. To the north is Great Republic Drive, which is a public way, and Blackburn Drive is also a public way. It's also bordered by Blackburn Center, which is a private roadway. It's within the business park zoning district, within the Blackburn Industrial Park, and it on all sides it's bordered by industrial and commercial properties. The site itself is not going to increase the amount of employees or increase the need for additional parking spaces. We're simply here because we are exceeding the 2,000 square foot improvement. We are, just for your information, we are in front of the zoning board next week because we are within we are need a variance for side yard setback to these public ways because of the dunnage. But we respectfully request your feedback on these improvements.
Thank you, Maggie. Just for the record, just your name and affiliation to the project.
Sure. Maggie Laracy, Langen Engineering, the civil engineer.
Thank you. And does John want to make a comment before we get into?
I'm curious if you can hear me at this point.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm John Goodwin. I am the project manager for Applied for this project, and we're just pleased to be able to present to you this evening. That's what I wanted to say at the beginning. I didn't have something right, obviously, on my phone, so appreciate the time. And no, I think Eric and Maggie have represented the project that we would like to gain approval for.
Thank you.
So there was a staff level meeting with the applicant. I was not in attendance, but it was attended by the engineering department and public safety as well, and the building commissioner. I think it was constructive. I think most of any of the issues are things that would just simply be resolved in the building permit process when there's a plan set submitted. None of the staff that attended that meeting had any particular concerns about the site plan as it's been submitted.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions from board members? You have your red pen out, Jenny.
Yes, I have one quick question. So am I correct in thinking you're losing parking spaces where the mezzanine portion of the building is being expanded?
No,
Yeah, right there. No, you're not. So
Oh.
you're not losing any parking spaces then.
No,
that is a
Nope.
paved area as an entrance, a mid-level entrance that takes you either up to the level 2 mezzanine or down to the level 1.
Okay. And on the west side, no parking spaces lost.
nope.
Got it.
This is well, it was a
The deck.
patio deck type thing. It's been, since been removed, so we
Okay.
couldn't do soil borings.
Great. And but is it, and it's the west side that you run up against the side setback?
Yeah, it's here, let me pull this back up. So we're about 16 feet from
Uh-huh.
here.
Great. Well, I don't have any other comments except that I like the sidewalk that you're adding. And I'm guessing you're not compromising snow removal. It looks like you have other places to put snow, if that's a consideration. Just say no, you're good with snow removal.
We're good with snow removal.
We're good.
Yeah, we are good.
Yep.
If everyone's in agreement and ready, I move that we approve the application for site plan review for 30 Blackburn Drive, Assessors Map 262, 263, lots 24 and 4.
Second.
We have a motion by Jane Ramsden, second by Beverly Bookin. I need a roll call vote because I should have asked David if he had any comments.
Member Noonan,
Yes.
member Remsen,
Yes.
member Bookin,
Yes.
member Cook,
Yes.
member Henry,
Yes.
member Rosen,
Yes.
member Yost.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you very much. Good
Have a
evening.
Thank you.
great night.
Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.
I know.
Next on the agenda this evening is subdivision plans and public hearings in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law 41 and the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land in Gloucester. The Gloucester Planning Board to consider a 5-lot definitive subdivision plan filed by Seaside Legal Solutions entitled Road A at 598 and 600 Essex Ave. Assessors map 237, lots 21 and 22. And at the applicant's request, they've requested a continuance to our January 15th, 2026 meeting.
25. Oh, yeah.
That should read 26.
So I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Jane Ramsden. I need a second.
Second.
I'll need a roll call vote, please.
Member Noonan,
Yes.
member Remsen. Oh,
Yes.
sorry, member Bookin,
Yes.
member Cook,
Yes.
member Henry,
Yes.
member Rosen,
Yes.
member Yost.
Yes.
And Steve, you made the second. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, just for our record keeper person. Thank you. Next on the agenda this evening is item 2 in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law 40A.
Take this out of order and just continue the other hearing and let people go if they were by any chance here for that.
Okay, we can do that. So we're going to move to, So in accordance with Mass General Law provisions 40A and Section 5, the Gloucester zoning ordinance, Section 1.11, the Gloucester Planning Board will hold a public hearing to consider the following proposed zoning amendments. And as our vice chair has recommended, we'll take item B out of order. Amend the Gloucester zoning ordinance, Section 6, definitions by adding the definition structure. Anything constructed or erected, the use of which requires a fixed location on the ground or attachment to something located on the ground. Structures include buildings, mobile homes, billboards, fences that exceed 6 feet in height, swimming pools, tanks, or the like, or part thereof. Boundary walls, fences not exceeding 6 feet in height are not considered to be structures by adding and flagpoles under 30 feet in height. So at the request of the applicant, I'd like to join us on January 15th of 2026 again. And I'll just need a motion for that continuance.
So moved.
We have a motion by Jan Ramson, and take a second.
Second.
Second by Steve Yost. A roll call vote, please.
Member Noonan,
Yes.
Member Remsen,
Yes.
Member Bookin,
Yes.
Member Cook. So you can abstain. Yep, abstention. Member Henry? Yes. Member Rosen
Yes.
and Member Yost.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I guess everybody wants to hear this next one. I'll just read it again. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law 40A, Section 5, and the Gloucester Zoning Ordinance, Section 1.11, the Gloucester Planning Board will hold a public hearing, consider the proposed zoning amendments. And this is a continuation from our previous meeting. This is amend the Gloucester Zoning Ordinance by adding or amending the zoning map by changing the zoning district designation from marine industrial MI to neighborhood business NB of the following properties: 97, 99, 101, 103, 105, 109, 123, 125, 131, 135, 145, 147, 147R, 149, 151R, 153, 155 East Main Street, 1, 2, and 5 Norwood Court, and 3A, 6, 8, and 10 Avon Court. So again, this is a continued public hearing. And I know that we have a presentation.
Yeah, so I thought it might be helpful just for the benefit of not only board members or board members that were not able to make the site visit, but also for the public to just kind of put a little bit more clarity on what the actual proposal is. I will note that, again, the proposal came with a map, and I believe there was the identification of the properties that you had identified. When I translated that to the mapping that I've prepared for presenting this evening, I think it also includes, and I think Member Yost pointed out, 4 Clay Court was also one of the properties that was identified by the map, but not necessarily in the list of properties. So I'll clarify that just for the purposes of what's been proposed. So I will share my screen. And some of this information was also discussed last evening at the Planning and Development meeting. Okay, so I thought maybe first it might be helpful to really understand and define what the districts are that we're talking about. The area that's proposed to be rezoned from marine industrial to neighborhood business. And these are the definitions directly from the zoning ordinance. The marine industrial district, as we all know, is ringing Gloucester's Inner Harbor. And there is a definition in the description of the district of the types of uses that are typically present and what's not allowed. And those are industrial and commercial uses that are primarily marine related, but obviously we know that there is allowance for commercial enterprise that is not directly marine related, as well as other uses that are allowed by special permit that could potentially be supporting to a property. But generally I guess the crux of it is residential uses are not permitted in the marine industrial district. Neighborhood districts are throughout the community. They are generally clusters of properties that have a mix of residential and commercial uses that are usually limited to the immediate area. They're not, kind of a regional draw, but smaller commercial enterprises. And residential uses are allowed. They typically follow the adjoining or abutting residential district. So if you have a neighborhood business district adjacent to an R5, you would follow the R5 standards. If you're adjacent to an R10, like in this scenario, you would follow the dimensional requirements for the R10. But it does have a separate use schedule, so it doesn't just follow the intensity of use or the use allowance. in that residential district. It has its own standards. This is the general area that was included in the proposal. So I've just kind of, taken a portion of our mapping just to identify the current zoning districts in the area. Again, everything to the water side of East Main Street. In purple is marine industrial. There are some neighborhood business districts on the opposite side of East Main Street, and then the dominant district on the opposite side is the R10 residential district. The proposal that was presented last week, the properties that are identified in this slide in kind of a darker blue, because superimposed over the purple, are those that were presented by Councilor Worthley to be changed from marine industrial to neighborhood business. I thought it might make sense to just look at those use tables kind of in a more summarized fashion, just to be clear, what the intention or what the allowance would be if the change was made. The use allowances are identified in section 2 of the zoning ordinance, and they're broken up into business uses, residential uses, industrial uses, open uses, and community service uses. So I've just trying to do a little color coding so things kind of pop out, but we have anything in the table that's identified as a yes is an as of right use that can be pursued if it meets all the other requirements of the zoning ordinance just through the building permit process, and denotes something that's prohibited in that district. And then we have a variety of uses that are allowed by special permit, either by the city council or the zoning board of appeals. So if we start off with industrial uses, as you can see, Marine Industrial District allows most of them allowed by right, with a denoting with a yes or a Y. And then in the Neighborhood Business District, those are restricted. So if there were an existing use in the MI district in one of these properties and the zoning was changed, they would then become a non-conforming use. You look at the business uses, there's a fair amount of variety of going back and forth between what might be allowed in an MI district versus a neighborhood business district. But in general, the intensity of uses are lessened in the neighborhood business district, but it also allows more commercial uses that would not be allowed because of their potential conflict in the marine industrial district. They are generally smaller in scale. We'll talk about the size of properties, which has a significant impact on the potential future use of any of these properties in the proposal. But again, there are distinctions between these two districts, much more forgiving use allowance and dimensional allowance in the marine industrial district. Another set of business uses, again, kind of heavier, kind of more on the industrial side, things like contractors' yards, protein recovery. We don't, we do have that on the harbor, but not in this particular area. But as you can see, those are all curtailed in the neighborhood business district. And then finally, this one's fairly telling. Again, marine industrial did not allow for residential use, denoted by a series of N's in the tables. And then again, neighborhood business doesn't have perfect parity with the residential district that's adjacent. There is some more special permitting requirements for residential uses, but there is use allowance either by right or by special permit of many of the uses that are allowed in most of our residential districts. So this is a map that I prepared for the site walk that the planning board held last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't even remember at this point. Last week. And all the properties are shaded in colors relating to their use. So as you start from the first property, which is the former or at least still has the shingle, I think, of Art Studio, that's immediately adjacent to Cap and Joe and Sons, which is behind it. And as you work your way from kind of the north to the south along East Main Street. All the properties in red are currently have residential use, and this is according to the information from the Assessor's Department. And the properties are labeled with the number of units that the Assessor's Department has identified for occupancy. So whether it's a 1 for a single family, a 2 for a 2-family, a 3 for a 3-family, there's a couple of those. And then they have a classification of 4 to 8, which doesn't actually identify the exact number of units, but that is a classification that they use for multifamily. Additionally, as you go to the southern end, there are 2 properties that are zoned as church or religious uses. And there are 2 properties that are denoted with a P that are parking areas or vacant. And then there's 1 yellow property to the north that's also identified as vacant. And then there are 2 properties that are identified as commercial. So we're talking about a total of 25 properties, 18 being residentially zoned, 2 church use, 2 parking use, and 1 vacant property. So that's a summary of, again, the information according to the Assessor's Department. Total land area of the proposal is about 2.7 acres, 25 properties, and I'm just highlighting again, just for clarity, that 4 Clay Court was included, although it was not listed in the properties that were identified. That breakdown and this last part about the size of properties in the proposal. There, I think, is only 1 property that's greater than 10,000 square feet. The balance are many of them are far less than that, and range between less than far less than 10,000 square feet, on the order of 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. So any of these properties, for their uses, their structures would have to comply with setback requirements for the R10 district if it was rezoned. And those minimum requirements are 10,000 square feet and 65 feet of frontage, and front, rear, side yard setbacks, and a height limitation of 30 feet. So most of the lots don't comply. The structures certainly don't comply with setbacks. So their path to modification currently is through the Zoning Board of Appeals for modification of the structure. And in the event that they are rezoned, they would require both relief from the zoning board for dimensional relief, and then also likely special permitting for any addition of units other than a single family home. If there was a 10,000 square foot lot, or lots were assembled to 10,000 square feet, a new single family structure could be built.
So just to clarify, you're saying none of the lots are complying either with marine industrial or if it were to be neighborhood business?
Ironically, they do comply with marine industrial because it doesn't have minimum requirements.
Oh, got it.
Like the R10
Okay.
district.
Okay.
I think what you're saying is that with the neighborhood commercial, the residential uses become by right as opposed to being non-conforming, but they are still non-conforming for development standards. Is that what you're saying?
They either have a by right or conditional use allowance. So
Mhm.
there would be a path for the creation of those uses, but they don't comply in
They
many
don't
different
comply
ways.
by,
And
so
as
that
long
our
as they're not,
audience knows that,
yeah, as long as they're not changed, then there's no additional permitting required.
because they're non-conforming and
Yep.
they're pre-existing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I just had references, if anybody's watching this at home or watches it in the future, where they can find information that I've presented.
Back to the MIND slide and talking, let's see. Okay.
How
Yeah,
far back?
that just go forward one.
Oh, back to the residential?
Yes.
Yep, sure.
So I guess my question centers around the zoning changes, and so residential uses within the and neighborhood business district basically are pre-existing non-conforming, but any change to those buildings do have a path to modification through ZBA relief, correct? But anything, because they're all pre-existing, they're all undersized, if they open the front door, they basically need to seek approval. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think there's any of the structures that would comply with the R10 district at this point. And as you change use, you have to comply with all the requirements of the ordinance or seek relief. So not only would they have to obtain relief for the structure itself or any addition associated with it, then they would fall into these categories of, unless it's a single family home, the only stop that they would have would be to the Zoning Board of Appeals. But for any addition of units, they'd either require a zoning board special permit or a special permit from the city council.
So would every property have to go through that process with the ZBA?
As they
If
would
they're-
now. Yep.
Only if they're
Only if they're
changing.
changing the use.
Okay,
If
so
there's,
changing the zoning doesn't invoke the
Right.
need to, okay.
it's only if they make a modification to the structure or try to add additional residential units.
But since residential uses are not allowed in the marine industrial, all those residential properties have previously gone through a zoning board of appeals process to have
They
variances to exist.
not to exist because they probably predated the requirements.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So they're non-conforming,
Yes.
pre-existing non-conforming.
Eric, do you have? That was it. Going to help out. So let's go down the rabbit hole a little further. So if we can go back to the map that shows the reds and the blues, the house counts. So as an example, on the north side next to the vacant lot, if that two-family wanted to become a three-family, just in the talking about in the context of creating additional housing in a neighborhood business setting, what's that path look like?
So I believe, so the one that's identified as a single family,
Single
they
or a
were-
double, yeah.
so they would have to pursue up to 3 units. They would need a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then they would need any dimensional relief because of the undersized lot and also maybe not meeting setbacks as well. Above 3 units would require a city council special permit.
And if it was maintained marine industrial, what would be their path to change a 2-family to a 3-family?
They'd have to get a use variance. So it typically would not be allowed.
David, did you have any comments at this point?
No comments.
Further questions from board members?
Essentially, changing the zoning doesn't assist the current property owners who are homeowners in the area. Right? They'd still have to go through the same process under the existing zoning or.
If they're looking to change the structure and they're non-compliant, then they would have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
But by the same token, if the zoning's not changed, they remain non-conforming, but allowed because they're pre-existing. So it's not that great a benefit to rezone them, but except that's
Oh,
what it would
Beverly,
seem.
you weren't here in 2016 when we had this
No,
discussion.
I was not.
But you've come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay.
So we are in a public hearing setting. Obviously, a number of people are here for and against. I'd like to defer to Councilor Worthley if you'd like to make a comment, if you could keep them brief. I'd like to take further comment, and so after Mr. Worthley addresses us, then we can go from there.
Check 1, 2. Okay. Thank you very much again for taking this up. I wasn't aware of your site visit, but I've learned that it was helpful, and I'm glad you did that as well. As you know, the process right now is was considered an informal recommendation, an informal review by the planning board. The decision would rest with the next city council. Planning Development Committee of the council had a preliminary discussion last night, which I thought was very helpful and it was good dialogue. And I just want to first appreciate what you've done so far. I want to make it clear, I said at the last hearing, I do not own any property in this district. I don't own any interest in any property. And aside from my representation as an at-large city councilor, I'm not representing any individual property owner. I'm only just as a conduit to submitting a zoning change. The city council, as individuals, have the authority to do that. I want to get this conversation started before my term was over, because it started with a conversation with the director, the North Shore director, regional director of coastal zone management, Catherine Glenn, who was part of a year-long analysis that the Gloucester Harbor Planning Committee, initiated with the mayor at the time. I believe Chairman Noonan, I think you may have been on that committee at that moment. And the request at that time started in 2013. It took a year before they even began to review it. 2014, they reviewed whether or not this corridor should remain in the designated port area, which mirrors very much our marine industrial district definition. After a very extensive review with the Department of Environmental Protection, with stakeholders, property owners, businesses, residents, planning personnel, state officials, they determined that marine industrial use is not compatible with this largely residential swath of property. Mainly East Main Street could not handle the kind of tractor trailer traffic that would come if there were a large industrial use, noise, smell, everything that goes with this. When you look at the properties, 25 of them, a couple of them are vacant, a couple of them are commercial, light commercial, and then the remainder are largely residential. And what I think is, if there were a resident who wanted to make a change of use to marine industrial, which is allowable, every one of the neighbors would say, we don't want that smell, that noise, that 4 a.m. truck backing up to affect my sleep. You can just imagine that conversation being, this would not be compatible with what's on the ground right now. And as you mentioned, it doesn't change much, actually, when you think about it. They would still need to come before you or the zoning board for dimensional relief. But right now, residential use is not allowed in marine industrial. So if they were to start over, they couldn't. So what this does, it gives more uses available for this stretch of land, and it makes any commercial use a little lighter, right? It's compatible with a neighborhood versus the industrial use for these landlocked properties, which would never have a water-dependent use. So I submitted this to get the conversation started. As you know, there'll be a public hearing for the city council where we would take up, or I say we, I won't be on the next council. I want to get this conversation started, and I appreciate the dialogue and the review that you're doing. Thank you.
Jeff, I just want to clarify something.
Please.
So I was chair of the then Harbor Planning Committee when we petitioned the mayor to petition CZM, Coastal Zone Management, to do what's referred to as a boundary review of the designated port.
Correct, for the entire harbor.
In the entire harbor. And so the outcome of that boundary review wasn't specific to East Gloucester or the fort. It was the entire harbor. And I don't know if you misspoke, but I heard that the result of the boundary review was that marine industrial in this East Gloucester section, and it had nothing to do with marine industrial. It had to do with the designated port.
Right.
And so that portion of East Gloucester came out of the designated port. And again, the underlying marine industrial zoning was in place.
Correct. I probably misspoke. What I meant is that the marine industrial definitions largely mirrored the designated port area accepted uses, so that when that swath of land was taken out of the designated port area, the understanding was that the city would likely move forward with a change. I have this in writing in a conversation with Catherine Glenn, that there would be a change to make it so that the marine industrial use, the designated port similarities would not be required going forward. That didn't happen, as you know. There was a large discussion about it and it just got tabled. And so I'm moving that conversation forward, and we'll see if there's any result of that. But you were correct. It's the designated port area that was changed. Thank you, Rick.
Counselor Worthy, I have a question for you. If you're talking about changing the zoning to benefit the residential properties or whatever the purpose that you gave, why are you considering neighborhood business instead of residential zoning?
So if I had come forward with residential zoning, then the commercial uses that are there would not be compatible. So neighborhood business allows for essentially a mix of those two uses. So I said, of the zoning choices we have, which one would make the least, from a use perspective, non-conforming? So the residential units would be conforming. So if they want to make a small change to their property, they're not having to go through the same process that they would now with marine industrial. And similarly, the commercial properties would still be allowable use in neighborhood business. So that was the reason. I'm not disputing that residential would be helpful, but then we'd be spot zoning from one unit to the next parcel versus connecting neighborhood businesses on either side of
I
this.
see. But just to make sure a clarification on what you just said, it's my understanding from what Greg told us that since most of the residential properties are non-conforming, they actually would have to go through some type of process.
You have to go through a process. One difference is the allowable use for residential does not exist in marine industrial. There isn't a board you can go through to get a use variance for residential.
I understand.
But the major change of this is that residential is an option for a use through the process, either planning board, city council, zoning, not planning board, zoning board or city council. So it doesn't make that big a difference, but it does allow the use of residential. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I stay for questions or
Well, we're going to,
I'll be here for questions?
thank you.
Yeah, no
Thank you,
problem.
Jeff. Appreciate that. So I know there's some folks that are here last visit 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to open it to public comment. If you had an opportunity to speak last time, I'd like you to defer to anybody that would like to come forward and that didn't have a chance to speak last or 2 weeks ago. But we'll get through everybody, and we've had 2 weeks to sort of percolate this idea. So I'm sure folks have new insights to offer as well. So I'd like to open the floor to public comment. I'd ask you to speak directly into the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments under 3 minutes if that's possible. So if anybody that didn't speak 2 weeks ago would like to come forward, I'd like to recognize you first. And again, in support of this zoning proposal. Yes, ma'am. Hey, John. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Maria Valenti. I live at 103 East Main Street. My neighbor, John McDonough, lives next to me at 101 East Main Street. We'd like to submit these comments. We did not know about the last meeting. We weren't informed about it by mail. We did get notice about this one, so we're happy to be here. We are here to oppose the rezoning of these 25 properties. We just want to underscore, this is not a small change to our properties. We're worried that this rezoning will negatively affect our homes in residential neighborhoods due to the many allowed uses which you've shown up here. Everything from a cemetery to a manufacturing business. It could potentially impact Gloucester's affordable housing as well, which is a city priority. Why would we jeopardize housing and enable a residence to convert to a business for no good reason? I would not be able to leave my home and obtain another home in Gloucester. So we're talking about 25 properties, 19 of which are residential. We had many questions, which we asked of Councilor Worthley last night planning and development meeting. We asked him, did any owner of any of the properties request this rezoning? He said no. We asked why none of the residents of the properties were contacted prior to this rezoning proposal. I mean, we have all of these houses that are going to be affected, yet no one was contacted about it. Major change in our properties, upsetting our lives. No good answer. The last question was, why now? What was the emergent issue that came up? Was it an epiphany in the middle of the night? Oh boy, I got to get that rezoning done in East Gloucester before my council term is over. Hard to believe. The only property owner to testify in favor of this change at the last planning board meeting, which again, we didn't know about, were the owners of 105 East Main Street, strongly suggesting that they are the ones seeking zoning relief. Their motivation is clear. The building on the property, which is next to mine, was constructed to the limits of marine industrial zoning, including lot line to lot line, 4 feet from my house, on the fence of the Montaninos next door, and 40 feet high approximately, obscuring the views of many, many people. Those dimensions would not have been achievable under anything besides marine industrial. However, relief under neighborhood business could potentially allow the 4 units currently constructed to be sold as residences. The majority of the proposed properties on East Main, as we've discussed, are homes. They're homes to myself, my neighbors, many who have lived here for decades. Some are seniors, some have families, young families. I've had my home for 32 years. East Main Street is a neighborhood. We help each other during snowstorms. We feel more secure that we have neighbors. We don't want to turn it into a neighborhood business strip mall. Mr. Worthley suggested that, well, that we could have many neighborhood businesses next to us. We don't want neighborhood businesses next to us. We live in a neighborhood. We have families and residences. So we respectfully request that you recommend a no vote to the city council on this proposal. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, ma'am. John, you're going to need to speak right into the mic so the folks at home can hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So thank you for your time. I am at 101 East Main Street. Support everything that Maria has just said.
Just your name and address. I mean,
John McDonough, 101 East Main Street.
thank you.
Our feeling is that, things have been this way for a long time. My house was built in 1848. I've been there for 12 or so years. Like Maria's been there for 30 something years. We've had no issues with the way that the zoning is currently situated. We have no complaints about our neighbors, which are, many of them are marine industrial. We have trucks in the morning. We've, it's the way it is. And I don't think that changing that, my property has an easement down to the water at some point, years ago before Joe's was restructured. They'd pull up skiffs and dories into my backyard. There was a granite wall there where the pier ended. So, I have an easement on my plot plan down to the water, but that seems to have disappeared over time. But what if I wanted that access back to the water again to have a marine industrial property? So would I lose my right or my opportunity to do that? As Maria stated, the structure that was built next to her was clearly built to marine industrial zoning regulations, and trying to switch that over to now make it a residential condo building. It seems like that was just something was done intentionally. It was put for sale, no interest, price dropped, and now, clearly, I think there was some intention behind how that was built, where it was built. and trying to turn that over for profit. So I think, maybe that was not a sound financial decision to build that building where it is in trying to do this, is our opinion. I don't know if I have much else to add, but.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Before we move forward locally, we do have somebody online, Janine, who's got her hand raised electronically. If you could allow her to speak. You hear us, Janine?
Hi, my name is Jean Bronis, 116 East Main Street, and I'm in favor of residential. It is a residential neighborhood. As someone who lives adjacent to a business, I can speak to the trash, the mice, the smell, and it is my hope, as a relatively new resident, that the city council will honor the residents of the area and make it residential. Instead of new business. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else that hasn't had a chance to speak last week? Mr. Bent?
Hi, my name is Robert Bent.
Let's take the mic right in yours.
My name is Robert Bent. I live at 41 Magnolia Avenue, but, oh, thank you very much. My father, Peter, and I are the owners and operators of Brown's Yacht Yard, which operates at 135 Rear East Main Street. I would like to ask a couple clarifying questions too. We have two properties that I believe are listed in this proposed zoning change. There's 135 and 139. Now, 139 was not written on any of the thing that we've seen written up there. However, during the site visit, when we were walking by, 139 is also listed. If you bring back the blue and red map, I can show you there. It's listed on there. I think it's maybe improperly put as 1 Norwood Court. So it was a surprise to us that 139 is also included in this. But I only asked that to clarify just because Brown's operates on 3 parcels of land in East Gloucester. So the change from marine industrial to neighborhood business would affect basically 2/3 of the parcels of Brown's. Being a marine business, we rely on that zoning, especially now that we're no longer in the DPA. So for those 2 parcels to change, it directly impacts how we would do business. I don't want to speak for the residential of the neighborhood because they are allowed to have their own opinion. I can only state that as someone who operates a marine business in this area, this change would directly, it would make more than half of our parcels non-conforming. It affects the way we do business. The goal ultimately is we operate machinery on there, we do repairs. So that opens us up to being non-conforming, running our business there. So if you could clarify for me too, that if you pull it up, I'll kind of show you where I'm talking about, and maybe you can tell me if 139 is included in this.
While he's doing that, Rob, can you just clarify, you said 3 properties, so 135 Rear East Main, 139, which you think is probably mislabeled as 1 Norwood Court. What would be your third property?
135. So there's 135 and 135 Rear.
Oh, got it.
Brown's where we operate down. We're actually also on Montgomery Place is the road. So we kind of have 2 addresses down there. But those are basically our 3 parcels.
Are we bringing up the map? Hey, Rob, you probably need to use a mic. I don't know if you can bring it with you.
Can I speak?
So no, just use the microphone and we can.
It's because it's recorded on Zoom. The Zoomers can't hear you unless you're on the mic.
So where I was pointing out there, which I believe is 139, that's the commercial property where we operate now. The one directly next to it there, right there, that's 139. That was purchased by Brown's in 2021. And with the express idea of our goal is always you can see the land is tight there and we pack a lot of boats into these areas. So we've been there for 50 years. We try very hard to get along with our neighbors, but ultimately the goal is always to expand. And those 2 upland parcels, although they're, quote unquote, landlocked, they directly support our marine business where we are. So to change them really affects how we would do business going forward. Neighborhood business does not work very well for marine industrial. We run machines. We want to be able to bring in trucks. So this change would directly impact our business. The residential neighborhoods, they're absolutely allowed to have their own opinion, so I don't want to speak for them. But I will speak for our two properties which are on this, which would be a very significant change, which I don't see a lot of gain for the neighborhood. I do want to just also highlight quickly the notes that we have greatly, highlighting the report that Rick had mentioned earlier, the CZM in 2014. Browns was also directly noted in that report as well as saying that though this area was removed from the DPA, basically it states that there's operating marine businesses in this area. They noted Browns, they noted the Beacon Marine, and what they say is that, although it's being removed from the DPA, it's still zoned marine industrial, meaning those businesses are protected by being marine industrial. So saying the report basically doesn't state that you shouldn't have marine industrial here. It says the area is still protected. The people that are going to be operating on the water are still protected. It's it's not big enough to have trucks come out there. And it's not necessarily where if you were planning a city now where you'd put a big fish plant, but the existing marine businesses are zoned properly. So my hope is to keep it that way. And I respect with that the decision.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much.
And I appreciate the clarification of DPA versus MI. And essentially, the marine industrial back in 2014, the marine industrial was looked at by CZM as not a safety net's not the correct thing, but the underlying zoning still protects that use.
Absolutely. And that's where, in looking at it, my thought was, well, if the zoning changes, at least we're in the DPA, but we're not anymore. So
correct.
It's important for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else that didn't have a chance to speak last 2 weeks ago, for or against? TJ?
Good evening. You hear me all right?
Yep.
I'm speaking in favor of this, but with no intention to hurt anybody else's businesses. Bringing my unique perspective, Gloucester resident, licensed captain and mariner, small business owner, 20-year United States Coast Guard veteran, and a Massachusetts certified harbor master.
Just need your name and address, TJ.
Just giving you some background from
understood
coming from here. I am in support of this zoning change for the properties along East Main Street. I think it's important to note that there are neighborhood business districts to the north and south of this proposed zoning change. This is a connector between neighborhood business. If you look just to the south, there is neighborhood business along East Main Street that are quote unquote landlocked without a water dependency or water access, which rounds by Seatronics and those other businesses there. In front of them are marine industrial areas, which would completely conform to what is being proposed here. The properties in question are entirely landlocked. I do respect and understand that some of these parcels that are quote unquote landlocked are actually owned by people that have waterfront property. They're just separate parcels, but they're the same ownership and the use remains the same. I think this seeks an update to the zoning for upland parcels that no longer serve or cannot reasonably serve the purposes of marine industrial district. I was going to get into the CZM stuff, but I think that's kind of horse has been beat down pretty well. As you all know, as a result, the Commonwealth formally removed these areas from the DPA, as Rob just spoke about. However, local zoning maps are never updated to reflect the change, but at some point, I'm not sure when, just to the south, there's a bunch of neighborhood businesses that are landlocked, and in front of them are still marine industrial. I think that this encourages appropriate redevelopment. I think that this is a larger conversation, and this may be the start of that. Throughout Gloucester, there's a bunch of residential homes that are zoned marine industrial. There's businesses on Parker Street to include a bank, a bar, Pratty's, Bass Ave, and East Main Street. There's a business there that's been a trophy shop, breakfast diner. Now they sell barbecue. That's a marine industrial business. I don't see how those are marine industrial uses or ever will be. I know a lot's been talked about 105 East Main Street. I'm an interested party in occupying one of those units as a small business. Currently, some of the office space requirements that I'm going to need are not considered large office spaces and wouldn't be conforming to that use. So I think that there's a bunch of opportunity there to have some mixed use, smaller businesses, especially with the rising cost in housing. There's a complete lack of commercial space in the city to rent garage spaces and or offices. It's kind of unattainable at this point. And I know myself and other entrepreneurs that are, whether they're in the marine trades and the regular trades, carpenters, plumbers, so on and so forth, are looking for opportunity for some kind of mixed use that they'd be able to afford and thrive and continue to be in the city and not have to move out. Thanks.
So TJ, just your name and address for the record.
TJ Shimataro, 87 Dennis Street.
Thank you. 87 Denison Street. Okay, anybody else like to make a comment? So folks that spoke last week, I'll let you come forward if you wanted to digest what you've heard so far. Repeating information is not helpful, and it just hurts other people's opportunity to speak. So if you'd like to make additional comments, you feel free to come forward. Again, name and address for the record.
I live at 5 Riverside Avenue. I'm not here to reiterate any of the facts that we did last time. What I am here is for that things sometimes work, sometimes don't work. I owned 103 East Main Street for 10 years, and I wasn't allowed to use the water in front of my house, a boat. I wasn't allowed to fish because I didn't own the property. So M1 was really like this thing over my head. And then, of course, I owned 417 Main Street, which you're all familiar with, which was a viable shrimp plant, herring plant. It's now no longer any of that. They don't take out any boats. They don't do anything. What I'm getting at is sometimes we need to change for different reasons. The other thing is, my whole family's been fishermen or lobstermen in the city of Gloucester for the last 100 years. So as far as the lobstermen go, I want to say one thing. I am the biggest advocate to protect the rights of the people that own the waterfront to use the waterfront. But when you own a piece of land that's an island with no water around it, and you can't use the water, it prohibits you from a lot of things, especially banking. And the banking in the city of Gloucester frown upon the fact that we have all this M1 that's can be used for industrial, because it can't be. 103 East Main Street can't be a fish plant. It's impossible. So the change is not going to be drastic, but everything changes eventually. And last thing, for instance, I4C2. Jeffrey Cohen. I was on the board, we used it, and I was on the Fisheries Commission. When we sold I4C2 to Jeffrey Cohen, I was the person that said, no, you can't take the waterfront. You need the waterfront for the lobstermen. So what happens is we pull by eminent domain the permit. And we ended up in court for a long period of time, paid them a lot of money. But I think there has to be some protections for the businesses, especially the fishermen and lobstermen of the city of Gloucester, because my family did that for 100 years. So in the essence of this term, there's sometimes you have to overlook a little bit for a lot. And when you own a 103 East Main Street, which is 3,100 square feet, there's not much you can do with it. I raised my family until it was too big and I had to move. But it's still can be a nice neighborhood, and it's still going to be. You still have Captain Joe's behind you. You have trucks early in the morning. You have the Gloucester lobster in there, but it's going to be trucks in the morning. We live in Gloucester. So it's going to be in, out, and so forth, so on. But sometimes we need change, and we do need some sort of this type of building, because my son-in-law is now in Manchester working at a garage, and he's a welder and would love to be here in Gloucester, but he can't find anything. So again, I'll leave you with that, and I'm in favor of it, but I'm not in favor of changing any waterfront, fish-related, to anybody. Leave it alone. Thank you.
Louis, Louis, if you don't mind, just into the microphone, name and address, because I don't think our scribe.
51 Riverside Avenue, Louis Linquata. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody like to come forward and share their thoughts?
Frank McCormick III, 5 Wolf Hill Road, Gloucester, Mass. I'm one of the interesting parties of 105 East Main. Last meeting, a commercial fisherman spoke against the zoning change of Gloucester. I myself am a licensed captain. I hold multiple commercial fishing permits on multiple different vessels. And unlike said person, I've sold multiple bluefin tuna this year. I in no way want to hurt the working waterfront of Gloucester, Massachusetts. I am not in favor of any zoning changes that will hurt the marine industry, as I am part of the marine industry. The property at 105 East Main in particular is wedged in between 2 residential homes, which in my opinion is zoned incorrectly. After a long time on the market, there has been no interest in this space to be used for marine industrial. We would like to move forward with neighborhood business with this particular property. That will open the door for more flexible use of the space. I don't think the residents next to us would want a bait shop there, frozen bait or lobster traps. I don't think they will be too happy if we leave it as marine industrial and have to sell to a bait shop. Have 50-gallon drums of mackerel there sitting out and stinking up the entire neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Thank you. Anybody else like the opportunity? So you just need to speak right into the mic so the folks at home can hear. Thank you.
Tessa Brown, 32 Laurel Street. I know I wrote a letter last week, but I just want to clarify a few things that I operate 2 of the businesses that are between a lot of these properties that are going to be changed. And I came into that area when both those places were vacant. There was nothing there. I don't know how long they'd sat vacant, but I went through a lot of opposition to be able to operate. Some of the people in this room are here who still might hate me, but I have tried. I've created a business that supports over 100 boats in Gloucester that I offload. I give them bait. I give them supplies. I talk to them on a daily basis. I could have all 100 of them come out in this room if I had asked them to and tell you that they would not want this change, because I already have issues with trucks. When I tried to put the restaurant in, they said that there was a blind corner there. They didn't want any more traffic. They didn't want any more people. They didn't want any more tractor trailers. So I just don't see where this makes any sense. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Marcy.
Marcy Pregent, 28 Way Road. I'm the manager of Jamari Series, which is the owner of the 2 parcels that are being proposed and also in between parcels of this proposed zoning change. And a couple things, I know I spoke last time and I spoke about why I was opposed to this, but there's just a few things that just don't add up with this plan. And I appreciate Jeff Worthy thinking that this would be a positive thing for people and for the city of Gloucester. But I was on the Harbor Plan Committee in 2014. I was on the Maritime E-Board. I spoke with Catherine Glenn at great lengths of pulling that area from the DPA and what it would mean to Gloucester. And honestly, with this city, you know, we've invested in the city for over 50 years as a company. Prior to that, one of our marine industrial supporting businesses, my dad had a trucking company that shipped seafood from east to west coast, both fresh and frozen. And with that success, he was able to invest in the city when nobody else would and protect the marine industrial zones. So I appreciate everybody's comments and everybody's time on this. But what doesn't add up for me is that Jeff has had 2 years to bring this to light. He's had 2 years to get traction, to talk to the people, ask people. I don't want my properties removed from marine industrial. I was never asked. It was never even an open conversation of, is there a modification we could do? You know, what would work? No comments. It's in the 11th hour and we're trying to get this through. And it really doesn't make sense for the area, for the city. Our city is one of the oldest, it's a seaports in the country. And, you know, it's my goal and my mission. I mean, I could sell out, I could have done a 40B at that site where Tess is, a friendly, non-friendly 40B. It's not what I did. I want to protect the city. I want to protect the maritime. And I think this could have been handled a completely different way with honesty and giving everybody a chance to either be, you know, have a communication about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. So folks that are listening online, again, you have the opportunity to speak if you raise your hand electronically at the bottom of the screen. There says raise hand button. I just didn't like to encourage anybody that's listening to us at home. If you wanted to make a comment, we'd love to have your input. Give them a second. All right, nobody wants to speak from home. Anybody else like to make a comment? Kyle?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Kyle Grant, 239 East Main Street. As Louis stated, I'm not going to repeat the same letter that's been submitted as last meeting, but I would like to make some comments to you know, some of the things we observed on the site visit. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in that. As I noted, I am a marine industrial property owner in East Gloucester. I'm also an owner of a marine industrial property with a residential variance that my wife and my 4-month-old live in and have lived at for the past 12 years. Through the process of living there, I had a dream and a vision to try and have a place to dock my boats and operate my business from in the city where I live and where I love. I was able to buy a property that is, as I said, marine industrial zone in 2020. And I was able to then buy a marine industrial residential property that abuts that and adjoin those two properties. So I think what I'd like for you all to consider is, as we went through that site visit, if maybe it's possible, Jeff, to pull up the map. Specific to this, the property at 105 East Main Street is a great example of a property that could be adjoined by an existing, marine industrial property that has access to the water. So I think as you look through the actual section 2, and again, not to get too far back into the comments from the prior meeting, but I would again state that the proposed use will not, by virtue of its location, scale, duration, operation, or other aspects, preempt or interfere with existing or future development of water-dependent uses of the project site or the surrounding property. And that surrounding property is very key, in my opinion. And as I think we saw on the site visit, there's lots of opportunities to adjoin properties perhaps in these parcels, specifically 105. I think Mr. Bent spoke to this earlier. They've recently purchased a property in 2021 that they are adjoining onto this piece. So as you look to, you know, certain areas within the area to the west, if you will, there's lots of opportunity for that continue to expand. Right now, as it sits, I would also like to note that by the numbers, as you noted, Jeff, properties rezoned, neighborhood business would still not meet the requirements and would require a variance. I think this creates an arduous path for current property owners who do not want rezoning. You know, again, just clarifying that, you know, as a marine industrial residential variant property owner, I do not have to seek any variance to live in the home that I live in today. And I am very happy doing so. So I appreciate the opportunity to be heard again this evening, and thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Kyle. So if anybody else would like to speak, if not, I'd like to give Councilor Worthley a few minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the comments, both for and against this. I just want to clarify and rebut a few things. I have great respect for the Montanino family, just to be clear, always and on the record. You said the word honest with honesty. This was submitted on April 15th, 2025 of this year. After a lot of discussion, and I'm not knocking anybody, with the planning director and a legal department to present a zoning change. It took 6 months, and I'm not technically savvy to create maps as well as other people are, but it took us 6 months to get through that process. And also, if I met with individual property owners, asking them what they would want before I submitted something, then why have public hearings? The process is not, this is not 11th hour for me. I'm not trying to get this done before the term is over. I was trying to get it started with the expectation that there be a dialogue, an informal review by the planning board, a review by the planning development committee, a review by the city council to discuss this and potentially other changes. So this is the beginning of the process, not trying to slip anything in, not trying to do anything nefariously. I like everything to be done in the light of day, but the council process requires legal review of things before they're submitted. And that took, again, not knocking the legal department, I submitted that on April 15th. I have it right here, 2025 at 12:21 p.m. So this isn't 11th hour. The process takes that long. I also want to be clear that the word neighborhood business, the phrase neighborhood business, sounds like we're trying to get more commercial and heavy commercial use. It's the opposite of that. Neighborhood business is a lighter use than marine industrial, and residential use is the lightest of the uses, which aren't allowed right now. So the property owners who are saying they don't want to change their property because they're residential, well, first of all, this will allow them not only to stay as residential, but potentially expand residential. So that doesn't impact it. And then I appreciated Mr. Bent, and I love your dad, by the way. I appreciate your comments. If this were to change, you're an existing use. There would be no, you would have to go get permitted for what you're doing. If you were to expand on another property or something, yes, that would be a different story. But this does not stop your operation, does not impact you in any way.
Jeff, if I
what you're
could
currently
just,
doing.
so through the
Thank you.
chair.
I'm sorry.
You're not commenting
right.
to the,
Correct. I'm sorry. That wasn't meant to be offensive either. I appreciate that it would create a hardship if they were to expand. But their use, again, the main difference here is the use. This will allow the neighborhood to remain a neighborhood and expand the things that make neighborhoods neighborhoods. And yes, the designated port area review did not change the underlying zoning, but it strongly said that the trucking, the noise, the smell, the operation of marine industrial in residential district is not compatible. And that's why I put this forward, because it allows the most of the properties there to remain in use and become compatible or compliant. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your review of this, and this won't be the end of the discussion. It's the beginning. Thank you.
thank you again. Okay, I think we've exhausted everybody's energies at this point. Maybe Greg can give us a little bit of next steps.
It's entirely up to you. You can either close the public hearing or keep it open, and whether or not you're prepared to deliberate to make a recommendation to the city council at this point.
Back to us. We can talk about it before we close. I think I'd like to keep it open, but we can have a discussion as far as what we think next steps are here. I mean,
This is a lot of testimony we've heard tonight. Greg gave us a nicely detailed presentation, which I personally would like to review a little bit more. I will, though, kind of summarize what I've heard here tonight, which might be calling out the elephant in the room. We've heard from property owners, and we've heard from whose properties would be affected by this change. And we've also heard from people who don't actually own property in the district, but who have an opinion about it, which is what the point of a public hearing is. But I will say, of all the property owners that I have heard from, the only property owner that seemed to be in favor of this was 105 East Main. Every other property owner, correct me if I'm wrong, was not in favor. Either they're directly affected by this change, proposed change, or they're abutters to properties that would be directly affected by this change. So maybe this is about 105 East Main. I don't know. And if that's the case, also the owner of 105 East Main could propose a change that would just affect 105 East Main. But I need some more time to think about this. It's a kind of a really big deal. Gloucester has protected the marine industrial area fiercely for a long time. And I would hate to do something precipitous without really thinking it through. And this is unlike me to say this, but I also went to Anne Margaret's funeral today. And she would not like us to have not protected the marine industrial zone. So having said that, I can't make a rational decision about this today. So I think maybe deliberating another time would be better.
Beverly?
This is an extraordinarily complex situation, and I personally, many of the things that you have said, Jane, I do concur with. I want to make 3 points, though, because I think they're important. The first is, this is historically a mixed-use area, and there already is a potential conflict between residential and industrial uses because the residential use is back onto the industrial. So the argument that changing the zoning reduces that conflict, I think is not legitimate. But more to the point is people who live there choose to live there. And so in fact, the potential conflicts apparently are not significant, especially because a number of the property owners who are residential are opposed. So I think that argument of the conflict, it's just built in because of the historical development pattern here. The second thing is that when in the 70s, when this area was declared for marine industrial development, there was a reason that it went eastward to the east side of Maine. And that's because industrial uses tend to be larger than the pattern of zoning in this particular area, the land division in this particular area. And there are businesses that want to expand eastward, not because those parcels are immediately on the water, but because they are non-marine uses that support the waterborne. And they are things like offices and employment parking, material storage are 3 that come to mind. They don't have to be on the water, but if they're part of a business that needs to be on the water, having a parcel that is landlocked but joined becomes an important opportunity. Now, in the 50 years that this has been in place, many of those parcels have not been converted, but the Representative Brown, in fact, is talking about using 1 or 2, was it, of these landlocked as part of their business. And that was the thinking when the zone was established by the city. And the final thing is, the zoning notwithstanding, nobody is forced to sell their house to a business. People could do it by choice under the more generous zoning in neighborhood commercial as opposed to residential. But changing underlying zoning does not change the property's owner's right to use the property as it's being used. Now, maybe it becomes non-conforming. Maybe if they want to make changes, they're forced to go and get permits to do it. But the fact is, it does not change their right to operate that use as it is, and are not forced in any way by the zone change to do that. So I want to make people understand that so they can feel more comfortable. Now, those are 3 important points because this is so complex, but it does feel to me at this point that just doing a carte blanche change of all these properties, especially when so many of the property owners that would be affected appear to be opposed, seems to be not an appropriate way to handle this situation. It just seems to me that maybe a more selective rezoning is a potential here. Maybe it's not, but I don't think the proposal in front of us is one that I'm certainly all in for.
Thank you, Beverly. So there is somebody in the audience online. This is sort of funny, Mary Jo Marcy. So maybe somebody signed on with your account, but we'd like to permission them to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? This is Mary Jo Montanino of 22 Way Road in East Gloucester. I want to commend all of the boards, the participants, both people for and against, for your interest in zoning. It has always been a major influence in my life. In fact, my first home was on East Main Street, at the lights, 27 East Main Street. And it was with joy that I joined my neighborhood on East Main Street. Now, what is happening now is really sad in a way, because the people in this neighborhood have for some time been in these types of hearings with conflict between those for something, those are against other things. And we have been both participants and opponents in some time. But since we've owned property, and I'm talking about the Jamari Series companies, since we've owned properties on East Main Street, we've had marinas, we have lobster companies. I'm thrilled to see Mrs. Brown, whatever, participating in our harbor and making it flourish. I'm so appreciative of that. We are one of the oldest fishing ports in the country, and we're going on our 250th year as a country. I think we can do this without upsetting everyone in this neighborhood. I appreciate all of your time, and I won't hold you up any longer, but please consider the long-term consequences of making such a major change. It's so nice to see people who are willing to invest in their property, such as our neighbors on East Main Street, to participate with us to make things better. If there is a real problem, to solve it amongst ourselves. And I enjoy working with my people in the community. I've had friends from East Main Street from way back in 1964, and I've been at my house here for 50 years. I'm not going anywhere, but I love zoning, and if it's done properly, it's miraculous for a community. We have to think of the whole community. I thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments, Mary Jo. Appreciate that. So I think at this point, we're talking about a continuance to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is in 2026 on January 15th. So if I could have a motion.
I move that we continue the public hearing for, I'm not going to read all the numbers, for the proposed amendment of the Gloucester zoning map to change the zoning designation from marine industrial to neighborhood business to along East Main Street to our next scheduled meeting of January 15, 2026.
So I have a motion. I need a second, please.
Second.
We have a second by Steve Yost. Motion made by Vice Chair Jane Ramsden. I need a roll call vote, please.
Member Noon?
Yes.
Member Remsen?
Yes.
Member Bookin?
Yes.
Member Cook?
Yes.
Member Henry?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Yost?
Yes.
Okay. So we are under other business. We're going to review some minutes. This is the really exciting part of our meeting, so you guys should hang out. There's hot chocolate afterwards. Yeah, well, you can take that for you, ma'am. It's quite all right. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Jeff. So which one do we have here, Eric?
This is the
Scroll down.
October 2nd, 2025.
Okay.
So David, this is not a roll call because David Rosen wasn't present here.
Okay.
I actually had no comments. The minutes are really long and I was afraid they were too long, but it's very well written and I don't have anything to say.
About a motion.
Anybody else have any comments? I move that we approve the minutes of October 2, 2025.
I have a motion by Jane Ramsden. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Beverly Bookin. And no roll call vote because David wasn't present. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous vote. And so 11/20/25.
I do have a few
Go ahead.
comments on that one. It's not being shared. But thank you for page numbers, by the way. On page 2, the second paragraph, is anyone looking at the minutes or should I just wait? That's not.
Eric Shannon. Karen's Karen.
This is the November 20th. Sean was not here. So
Oh, there we
it
go.
will be a roll call vote.
Okay, so on page 2, second paragraph, stop, go back. Yep. So the last sentence on the second paragraph, which starts, he added that, the proposed zoning change. I would just strike that sentence because it's not accurate. And then on page 5, again, loving the page numbers. Attorney Fafaza, the second paragraph right there. Yep. Second line says involved in the project, including the determination that the watershed, blah, blah. I'm just wondering who that determination was by. Was that by Concom or by staff?
That was by Concom.
So I would just insert after determination, insert by Concom. And then there's something.
Actually, hold on a second. This was the second meeting on this.
Yeah.
By the engineering department and DEP.
Okay. Yeah, I would just insert that there. But then there's something wrong with this sentence. It says, including the determination that the watershed around Fernwood Lake was an emergency watershed rather than zone A, and the determination of the sections of the site within the WPOD utilizing the original map. So I'm not, and the determination of what? I'm just wondering what that second half of the sentence is supposed to mean.
And the determination of the sections of the site that are within the watershed protection overlay district.
Okay, so insert that are after
Yes.
site.
Yep.
Okay. And then on
I'd
the,
suggest one change, which is Deb Ellison's name is spelled incorrectly. It's Eliason.
oh, yeah, right. I don't see where that is, but yes. Anywhere where Deb Ellison is mentioned, it should be, even though it's pronounced Ellison, actually. And then, okay, on page 6, third paragraph, Mr. Kadamatori commented that all interest in the project should be protected by the joint input. So there's, again, something wrong with that sentence because joint input doesn't protect a project. I'm not sure what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure that should be. So the issue was commented that concerns of the engineering department and health department were provided in a joint memo.
Okay, so rewrite that
Yep.
sentence to what you just stated.
Yep, got it.
And then just for future minutes, these motions are correct? Do they need to be listed in so much detail?
I mean, I believe that's exactly what you stated.
Yeah, it probably is.
So it's good to have
Okay.
an accurate motion.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, great. Just trying to shorten them up, but I don't know how to. So I move, unless anyone else has any more comments. Anyone? No? I move that we approve the minutes of November 2025 as amended.
I have a motion by Jane Ramsden. I need a second, please.
Second.
Move.
Second, Doug? Jeez, that's the 3 meetings. You haven't said a thing. So we have a motion by Doug Cook, the new guy. So I do need a roll call vote, please.
Member Noonan,
Yes.
Member Remsen,
Yes.
Member Bookin, Member Cook, yes. Member Henry,
Abstain.
Member Rosen,
Yes.
and Member Yost.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you next
Yes,
year. There
you
are no
too.
more meetings for this year.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's too bad. This says the career-long planner. Yeah. I'm not, those are not. Okay, who wants to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, shoot. Unless David logged off.
Yeah. You still there, David? I think, let's find out.
Oh, there he is.
Still here.
Still here.
Right.
Okay.
So we have, nobody made a motion, so we're going to stay for a little while longer.
I got my Christmas party earrings on.
Motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. I have a motion.
I'll second.
He's got a great voice for TV. So we have a motion by Steve Yost, seconded by Sean Henry. Roll call vote, please.
Member Noonan.
Yes.
Member Remsen.
Yes.
Member Bookin.
Yes.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Henry.
Yes.
Member Rosen.
Yes.
Member Yost.
Yes.
Good night.